started right on time here. All righty. So first of all, I want to introduce myself. For those of you that don't know me, I am Dr. Michelle Garish. I am an audiologist and senior clinical product specialist with Widex. And next week, I will be presenting a CEU course called Fitting and Counseling Strategies for Optimal Success. So next week's course will be a really great deep dive into practical and advanced strategies within software, as well as outside of the software, to ensure that we have a successful fitting, and most importantly, that we can help patients get back to participating, because that is the key. We want them to enjoy their lives. We want them to be able to participate with family, friends. So next week, I will definitely get into the nitty-gritty of the Moment hearing aids, the Compass GPS software, all of the accessories, apps, and so forth. So hopefully you will join me next week. And before I introduce our keynote speaker tonight, I do want to ask everyone to rename themselves in their video box. For CEU purposes, we do need to know everyone's full names. So there should be a little blue box in the upper right-hand corner, and well, actually, where would they do that? I think that would actually be down in the little caret by your video. No, let me see. I am actually not sure where to rename yourself.
You can rename by going to the three little dots next to your picture in the top right-hand corner and click rename.
See, yeah, and that's where I don't see that. That's what I was about to tell them. So maybe if you guys see it, and maybe because of the way I logged in, I cannot see it. But typically, yeah, there's the little three dots in the upper right-hand corner, and if you click on that, you should see the option to rename. But if you don't, just go to the chat box and just type in your full name, and then this way you can get credit for attending here tonight. All right. So I am very excited to say that Widex is sponsoring tonight's talk, because we have Dr. Angela Alexander. She is going to talk about the central effects of hearing loss. She is the owner and operator of Auditory Processing Institute. Prior to the Auditory Processing Institute, she actually built her knowledge and expertise while working with Dr. Jack Katz. And as you all know, he is a world-leading expert on auditory processing disorders. So in tonight's discussion, you will learn more about how to diagnose and treat auditory processing disorders. Dr. Alexander will also discuss the utilization of the Buffalo therapy model, which has the goal of furthering earlier identification and intervention and remediation. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Angela Alexander.
Hi there, how are you today? I'm so excited. I've got really, really juicy stuff, and I even changed some of my presentation today. I would like to ask a favor. I need like 5 people to help me with the demonstration. So these people I would need to have come onto video if possible. And I've never done it like this before, so it's a bit of a punt. We're going to give it a go. Do I have Krista? Can you help me? Fantastic. Can I have 4 more people? I've just recently learned to count. Does anyone have the ability? Yes, Laura. It's Laura, not Lara, right? Cool. Awesome. And none of you have to speak. All right. Anyone else? Wonderful. Catherine, cool. All right, 2 more victims, please. Anyone else able to join us? Skylar, thank you so much. Awesome, fantastic. 1 more, please. Emily, thank you. Okay, I've got all I need. I'm just gonna pin all of you really quickly. Allow multi-pin. Pin, nice. Just a moment, stand by. Yes, getting all of you. Pin. And this is like next level zooming right here, what I'm doing. Watch me try to not mess this up. Add pin, and then myself. What? We're the Brady Bunch. So good. Okay. All right. Here's what's going to happen. In just a moment, I'm going to have all of you turn around and face the wall. Okay? Not yet, though. Let me explain what's happening first. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say your name and you're going to turn around. And then I'm going to do a series of movements for you. All right? Now, by the way, you're fully set up to fail with this. So do not be hard on yourself, okay? And also, this is not an auditory processing task. All right, so no one diagnose yourself with this either. So I'm going to do a series of movements. And then I'm going to say a name of another person. When you hear your name, you turn around, and the person who I just showed the movements to is going to show the movements to you. And then we'll have the next person turn around, and that last person will show the movements, and it's going to keep moving down the line. All right. So I've never done it like this before. If it messes up, totally cool too. Let's just try it. Let's have a fun experience. So could I have all of you just turn around or look away or close your eyes, something like that? Okay, perfect. Awesome. You're great. Okay, wonderful. Okay, Laura, since it would be hardest for you, I'm going to go ahead and have you take your hand off of your eyes, please. All right, I'm going to do the series of movements for you first. There is no talking and there is no repetition allowed in this. Okay, do as well as you can and don't be afraid to guess. Here we go. Okay, Krista, come on camera, please. Here we go. Fantastic. Okay, Skylar. All right, wonderful. Emily. All right, just a moment. Skylar is coming back. Here we go. Go ahead, Skylar. Can you do the movements? Whatever you remember. I told you you were set up to fail. Go ahead. Do you remember any of the movements? Okay, you didn't see it. Oh no.
I'll do it again. You want me to do it again?
Okay, all right, all right. Emily, turn around, please.
Skylar, watch me.
Oh, wait, hold on. Can you not? Is your Zoom window open? Okay, watch Krista. Oh, yep. Keep going. Good one, Krista. All right, Skylar.
So if Crystal says something right ahead, I think it's just the person that just spoke that's showing up.
Oh, really? If I
You have to put
okay.
ourselves-
If you click on
Yeah.
view in the top right corner, you have to click to gallery view or speaker view, actually. Speaker view. Go ahead, Krista.
Okay, so I'll talk while I'm doing it. So you see me in the video and I stay in the speaker view. Are you seeing me now?
All right, fantastic. Emily. All right, watch Skylar. Wonderful. Okay, Catherine, can you turn around? And Emily, you may need to, can you see Emily, Catherine? Good. Okay. All right, Emily, your turn. Good one. Okay, Catherine, what is the final product? Oh, I mean, sorry, do the whole thing. Nice, wonderful. Okay, for all of you, what it actually was baby shark, let's go hunt, run away, safe at last. Thank you so much. I am so sorry about how awkward that may have felt, but you guys just helped to, all right, you're wonderful. All right, I'm going to remove, I could have spotlighted for everyone. That's how I would have done it. See, you would think that I would actually be really good at doing Zoom by now, but maybe not. That's okay. All right, cool. Wonderful. All right, so I'm going to share my screen with you eventually. And you might be wondering, what in the heck does that have to do with auditory processing disorder? Well, I am so glad you asked. Here we go. Pardon me, don't worry. I am still sharing my screen with you. Yes. Ooh, it's going to be juicy. It's going to be so much fun. Here we go. Okay. All right. So we're going to be talking about auditory processing in adults with and without hearing loss. Now, first of all, I already had the volunteers. This was if that didn't go well, so that you could see how I normally do it. I normally have people stand in a row and you tap the shoulder and the person turns around. But we're going to skip that.
Yes.
So how did we go? Baby shark, let's go hunt, run away. So what does this have to do with APD? Yeah, let's talk about it. So we have 5 people standing in a row. And then we have me doing a little dance here. And then that dance moves up the line. Let's say instead of a dance, let's say it was me saying something. It was an auditory signal. And instead of people, this is the ear going up to the brain. You see where I'm going with this, right? Well, any point along this, instead of people being there, this is the auditory pathway. And anywhere along that auditory pathway, it can have that whole situation that Skylar had where it's like, no, I didn't see it. I didn't get it. You know, there can be a miscommunication. And the closer it is to the very beginning of the signal, the more distorted that signal might end up being to the brain or Catherine. There are a lot of functions of the auditory nervous system. And whenever there's a lot of different functions, there can be a lot of dysfunction as well. So let's use the same thing. Let's say we've got the auditory pathway and it's the ear to the brain. Let's say we did it more than once. So I did the little dance for you again, and it started and Krista did it and everyone did it each time, but I just kept sending the same signal up. The first time, maybe it wasn't so great. The second time, maybe it was okay. And maybe the third time we achieved success. It's almost like when you hear a person's name in another language, and the first time you repeat it back to them and you butcher it. And then you're like, no, tell me again. They say it again. You still kind of butcher it. And then the third time you say it correctly. Well, this is the same concept of auditory training, where we're using repetition to improve, to get that signal in the brain to match that signal that's actually occurring. I want to help put auditory processing on the same continuum as hearing loss. So the very first level of auditory skill development is awareness. Are you aware of sound? If you are not aware of sound, you have a hearing loss or auditory neuropathy or hidden hearing loss. And we use devices to overcome this issue. So a hearing aid, a cochlear implant, a BAHA, that helps awareness. Awareness is what we're seeing when we do an audiogram. The next level is discrimination. Not only are you aware of sound, but you can hear the differences between two sounds. So you can hear the difference between and n. You need both of these levels to get to the third level, which is called identification. Not only do you know that there's a difference between two sounds, you can tell that the is M and the N is N. You need all three of these levels to get to the final level, which is comprehension. This is our goal. Now, as an audiologist, it's easy to think that as soon as we improve a person's awareness, we're going to take their comprehension, or we're going to get them straight to comprehension. But we forget about that part in the middle. And that part in the middle is the brain. We've also had this issue in our clinic where a client comes in and we're doing a case history, and based on their concerns, we're like, oh my God, this woman has like a moderate hearing loss. She's never had hearing aids. I'm going to test her. I'm going to figure out how bad her hearing loss is. I'm going to fit hearing aids on her and I'm going to change her life. And then she goes in the test booth and her hearing test result is within normal limits. Can I get a witness? Have y'all had that happen before? I'm going to go ahead and guess that you have. So I am Angela Alexander. I'm originally from Kansas. I lived in New Zealand the last 10 years, and now I live in Sunshine Coast, Australia. Just really quick aside, I have a new podcast called Between Two Ears Out, and I have a TEDx talk about auditory processing disorder happening in 3 weeks. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, preparing for a TEDx talk is freaking next level. That's just an aside. So what is auditory processing disorder? It's when auditory skill deficits impact potential and well-being. So what should we do? Well, we should decrease the deficits, and that will help us increase potential and increase well-being. Pretty easy, right? I want to tell you about a client that I call Jackie. She is that adult I was just talking about a little bit ago, where she came in, her case history sounded like a lot of hearing loss, but her hearing sensitivity was within normal limits. So in October of 2013, she had an audiogram done because she couldn't hear within normal limits. In the report, the audiologist said, I think she may have an auditory processing disorder, but no referrals or recommendations were made. In May of 2019, she went back because she was like, no, something is definitely wrong. And they said, okay, let's put you through an extra test called a quick SIN, a quick speech and noise test. And her results were within normal limits. So they said, no, and it doesn't look like you have APD either. So I don't know what your problem is. Everything looks normal. So then she was referred to us. Because she has trouble following speech and background noise. She works in HR, and it's apparently important to hear. She needs subtitles on movies to get the jokes and the plot, and she reports learning difficulties as a child. She struggled to read and spell. Here's a crazy idea. Reading is an auditory task. What? All right. Hearing handicap inventory. I hope you guys are using this, and maybe you should write it down because it could be in the questions later. The Hearing Handicap Inventory for Adults is a free questionnaire that you can use that it has 25 awkward questions, and a person answers yes, sometimes, or no. And based on their response of this, it can tell you how much their hearing problems are affecting them, and it can help you guide treatment. What? 25 questions, they say yes. If they say yes, they get 4 points, sometimes 2 points, and no 0 points. So on 25 questions, if they answer yes all the time, they'll get a score of 100, and that means things are real bad. If they answer no every time, that's a 0, and their score will be 0, and that's real good. So the lower the scores, the better. This is Jackie, and these are her actual responses the day that I met her. Awkward questions, and I just want you to answer yes, no, or sometimes. Does a hearing problem cause you to feel embarrassed when you meet new people?
Yes.
Does a hearing problem cause you to feel frustrated when talking to members of your family?
Yes.
Do you have difficulty hearing or understanding coworkers, clients, customers, or wait staff?
Yes, definitely.
Do you feel handicapped by a hearing problem?
Yes.
Does a hearing problem cause you difficulty when visiting friends, relatives, or neighbors?
Yes.
Does a hearing problem cause you difficulties hearing in the movies or in the theater?
Sometimes yes.
Does a hearing problem cause you to have arguments with family members?
Sometimes.
Does a hearing problem cause you difficulty when listening to TV or radio?
Yes.
Do you feel that any difficulty with your hearing limits or hampers your personal or social life?
Yes.
Does a hearing problem cause you difficulty when in a restaurant with relatives or with friends?
Yes.
Okay, so you could tell she was really struggling to hear. And if anybody had a hard time hearing that audio in my video, please come off mute and let me know that. So her score on the 26th of June, 2019 was 82 out of a possible 100 points on the 25 item questionnaire. Remember her audiogram? It was within normal limits. But based on this, it looks like she has a severe handicap, a severe impact of hearing difficulties on her life. To me, this is a well-being score, and it's super important. So we also did the central test battery with her. So we checked speech and quiet, speech and noise, the SSW test, the staggered spondaic word test, and phonemic synthesis. I'm going to show you actual videos of her testing. So she's a Kiwi, and the materials are in American English, so I had to analyze the results carefully with that in mind. You're only going to see short segments of this testing and not complete results. So I'm only going to show you like 6 items of one thing and whatnot. My husband was like, why don't they just memorize the items so they can do better? Yeah, no, there's like 100 words, so there's no learning effect that's been observed. So here are her speech in noise, just a section of her speech and noise findings. She's hearing the words in noise. So remember that it's a 5 dB signal to noise ratio. So the signal is 5 dB over the noise. So it's the noise and the speech are both going in the right ear. Hard to remember when we're so used to masking and putting it in the contralateral ear.
Sharp, 10, 8, can, buoyant, this, Louvre. That was really hard.
Did that actually make you feel like you normally feel in a noisy situation?
It made me feel stressed, emotional, and frustrated. But the emotive response, that emotional response was exactly the same as what it's like for me in a social situation where I'm just guessing at words because I have no idea.
No clue.
Shove, 10, 8, camp, oil, this, do.
Okay, so I hope you could hear even the change in her voice and like how confident she was in her responses. All right, so then we also did the SSW test. By the way, I think I was really mean when I wrote the questions for these CEU points, so I'm going to try to give them away as we're going along. So speech and quiet and noise, SSW, and phonemic synthesis is what we use in the central test battery. So this is the SSW. It's a test of binaural integration. So the way that you're going to hear it from my speaker monitor is going to have everything overlapped in presentation and harder than it normally would be if you were actually getting this testing done yourself. The stimuli is normally delivered, so the right ear would get upstairs and the left ear would get downtown, and the words stairs and down are presented at the exact same time. But don't diagnose yourself with APD if you would struggle to repeat the item back correctly. Shoot, sorry. Okay, so this is her SSW test. Here we go.
Are you ready? Fruit, juice, cake.
Fruit juice cupcake.
Throat juice fruit cake.
Are you ready? Night, yard, stick.
Nightlight yardstick.
Night light yard stick.
Are you ready? Bird, cage, nest.
Birdcage crow's nest.
Bird cage crow's nest.
Are you ready? Book, shelf, star.
Bookshelf drugstore.
Bookshelf dog spa.
Okay, yep, actually.
What did you think of that one?
That was quite tricky.
You did it. Well done.
Oh, that was fun, that one.
Was that fun?
Yeah.
You actually enjoyed it?
Yeah, weirdly. Take these
Yeah,
off.
let's check them out.
I kept waiting to become exhausted. Woo! I know, I was like,
High five to you.
okay, I am really concentrating, but this is quite fun.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm doing really well.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Come on
And
out.
it's like, I really want to know how I did in the
Here.
first test, because it's like, I'm sure it wasn't, because it wasn't easy,
Yeah.
but I feel as though the first time I did it, I was like, oh my God, this is so hard.
You're right. You're right.
And but
Last
then
time you
I'm
did say, oh my God, this is so hard.
And I feel with that one, it was just like, okay, this is really cool.
Yeah.
And it was really cool. And I hope you could get a little bit of a sense from that. By the way, also some test questions, wink, wink. If a person pauses during the SSW, we mark an X and a circle next to the word they paused before, because if a person is having to take time to figure out what an item was, it might be because they're having to use cognition and not automatic auditory processing. So one of the cool things about Buffalo model is that it looks at qualitative data in addition to quantitative data. So quantitative data tells us right or wrong, and qualitative data tells us, wow, that person was having to work really freaking hard in order to get that item correct. So a lot of audiology just looks quantitatively, but this actually looks qualitatively. And also a test question, we're not using that to spot fakers. We want to get more data on how a person is struggling and how they are compensating for that struggle, because it helps us get an idea of not just the diagnosis, but how to treat it. Super cool. So on the 26th of June, 2019, Jackie had severe auditory processing disorder. But look at this, and this is a conversation that is currently happening in audiology. A severe result, or actually a normal result, could mean that 85% of the population is still doing better than Jackie is on these tests. And that may not feel very normal. So maybe the 1 standard deviation, 2 standard deviation, 3 standard deviation cutoff is all arbitrary. It doesn't tell us how a person is actually doing. But that being said, her retest result on the 10th of January after 12 one-hour sessions were entirely within normal limits. But once again, 85% of the population could be doing better than she was on this testing. So to me, the more important thing is to see how she answers those questions on the HHIA. Can we see if her score has dropped, that the changes that have happened from auditory training have generalized to her life? Let's see. Does a hearing problem cause you difficulty when listening to TV or radio?
No.
Does it cause you to go shopping less often than you would like?
No.
No, it's not getting in the way of that.
No.
Does a problem or difficulty with your hearing upset you at all?
No, not now.
Good. Does a hearing problem cause you to want to be by yourself?
Can I elaborate?
Yes.
Only because I'm an introvert and I need time to recharge.
Okay, so sometimes
Yeah.
maybe?
Yeah.
Okay. Does a hearing problem cause you to talk to family members less often than you would like?
No.
Do you feel that any difficulty with your hearing limits or hampers your personal or social life?
No.
All right, remember how she used to look before, like bent over, like squinting, trying to figure it out? Oh, you can use a love emoji. That's cool, Brandy. I like it. And now she's like relaxed. By the way, I did not change her style. She just like came back in looking super cool. Super awesome. Anyway, her score on the 10th of January on that HHIA was 24 out of a possible 100 points. Very excited about that on that 25-item questionnaire. So to track this over time, remember, the lower the score, the better. So the first time I met her, 82. We did the test, it was 84. We finished therapy, it was at 30. This is getting better. We did a retest, 24. And then I did a 6-month follow-up, called her, and her score was 14. Yes, continue to show improvement post-therapy. I contacted her because I'm going to use part of her video in my TEDx talk, and she is my special ticket. I get 1 ticket to bring someone along, so she's going to be sitting in the audience with me next month. So the last 12 therapy clients I've had for pre and post HHIA, I've oriented the graph exactly opposite now. So as you see the score decrease, this is better. So this tells you things, but client 12 is this like green line right here in the middle, and his HHIA hasn't changed. And I'm worried that he's got a little bit of hidden hearing loss going on. So we're going to go for an ABR to check that out. And he also has an MRI scheduled. So his auditory processing test results have improved, but his well-being has not. And to me, that is more important. So watch this page. Can't wait to see. Then I had this happen. This is an American audiologist who contacted me. She's like, I'm having some problems with processing. Things got better and then suddenly worse. Like, what happened here? So I actually have the ability to look at all of their responses to all of the questionnaires and how those change over time. So what each one of these columns is the times they respond, and then the color is how they've responded. So if it's red, it's yes, orange is sometimes, and green is no. So we want to see as much lettuce as possible, as much green as possible. So the things that I was concerned with were question 6 and question 21, because it looked like these things had gotten better and then it went back to yeses. That is a problem. Question 6, does a hearing problem cause you difficulty when attending a party? And by the way, this is a case from 2020. I wonder what happened in 2020 that was different. In question 21, does a hearing problem cause you difficulty when you are in a restaurant with relatives or friends? This person was recalling what life was like pre-pandemic, although she did her testing and treatment during the pandemic. So she was recalling previous times to answer these questions. So that's the one thing that I'm going to go ahead and say, since y'all are in the USA, you might have to watch out for that on the HHIA. It's definitely influenced by how much a person is affected by the pandemic. Hopefully we're going to see that diminish soon. I'm going to show you now a phonemic synthesis test of a client with hearing loss. His name is Steve. He's given me permission. Once again, I'm only showing you a few items. He wore hearing aids for both pre and post therapy evaluation appointments. But now he has cochlear implants because he's had a series of sudden hearing losses. And more on that in a little bit, but this is the first thing I want to show you with hearing loss. Jackie did not have it, but he did. Now, his hearing aids are fit appropriately. He has real ear. We know that this signal is audible, but how is he processing it? And how is he processing individual speech sounds?
You are going to hear some words that I will say in a funny way. When you hear this sound, you say the word the right way. If I say sh, e,
She.
you would say she. E, ch,
Eat.
sh, oo,
Shoe.
b, o,
Boat.
b, a,
Bake.
Good job.
d, a, g,
Dog.
e, ch.
Eat.
It's okay. You're fine.
Sh, oo,
Shoe.
Good job.
b, o,
Tote.
b, a,
Bait.
d, a, g.
Dad.
So with that, I was able to do something called a phonemic error analysis. I look at each one of the sounds and I'm able to say, okay, he got an N for an E sound confused. And I'm able to analyze all of his data and figure out which speech sounds are actually the hardest for him to process. And then I can do therapy based on those speech sounds and make it better. And that's what you see here. So even though he's got hearing loss but his hearing aids have given him awareness, he still hasn't gotten to comprehension. And let me blow your mind even further. This guy teaches early literacy. He's a teacher and he actually works with phonics with children. Yet this was still massively difficult for him. So the categories of the Buffalo model, I'm going to give you a real quick and slick of these. There's going to be a lot of words on the next pages, but do not have your mind blown. Just listen to what I'm saying, okay? Jack Katz is a little bit of a genius. Just going to go ahead and put it out there. He started noticing that that kids with APD had a lot of kind of similar characteristics, but not all of them experienced all of these things. So what he did is he took 200 clients and he did an analysis of variance and an analysis of covariance. And he took the symptoms they were having and he matched it up with the test findings that he had on the test, and he found the overlap. And he was able to put these into 4 different categories. The first category is called decoding, and that's the ability to quickly and accurately digest speech, beginning at the speech sound level. So another one he found, this one actually surprised him. He found that there was a connection between hearing and noise and short-term memory issues. So he called this one tolerance fading memory, tolerance to background noise and short-term memory abilities. Decoding is like, how quickly can you get it? And then tolerance fading memory is like, how long can you hold on to it afterward? So TFM is difficulties extracting speech from noise paired with short-term memory issues. Another thing that surprised him is that when people reverse their order of responses, so if they switched the words on the SSW to be in a different order, they also had messy rooms and tended to lose things. He calls that one organization. And it's that ability to maintain proper order and sequence of information. And then the last thing is integration, and that's cross-modal. So that's being able to take vision and auditory and other different modalities, blend them together and figure out what's going on. So integration is the most complex category of APD. It has to do with bringing information together. Let's refer back to our very first thing we did, that super awkward thing that I made you guys do. Thank you for playing it along again. We had Baby Shark. Let's go hunt, run away. So if you have a decoding difficulty, it's where you would maybe get the items, but they're not quite right. So like, instead of a baby shark, like baby fish, let's pew pew and walk away. Okay, so it's close to the message kind of, but it's a little bit distorted. Tolerance fading memory, it would be kind of like what happened at the very end when I said, Catherine, what's the final thing? And she literally meant, she was like, oh, you're just wanting me to do the last thing? It's run away, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. So if a person has a memory issue, maybe they only remember the last part. That wasn't what was happening with Catherine. I am not diagnosing you with anything, just to be clear. But if a person only remembered the last item, it could be indicative of a short-term memory issue. Organization, they do it, but in the wrong order. And integration, they're like, what the heck just happened? I have no idea. Which, of course, if you can't see a person's face on screen, that could be the main issue. The Buffalo model is super good at identifying and treating these 2 categories in particular, decoding and tolerance fading memory. Now let's just think about this from a super practical, super basic perspective. If a person's problem is the ability to quickly recognize and process speech beginning at the phoneme level, shouldn't we teach them phonemes? What? That would be amazing. Let's teach them speech sounds, and that can help them overcome that deficit. And then we have tolerance fading memory, where it's a difficulty extracting speech from noise and short-term memory issues. What if we work on helping them extract speech from noise and short-term memory? What? Awesome, problem solved. And then organization and integration, it works on a little bit. Integration, that could be worked on with something like Little Listeners, Krista Reeves' program, things like that. She did not pay me to say that. So I want to talk about what the Buffalo model is super good at, and that's decoding. All right. First and foremost, decoding. Decoding is helping us move up Erber's model. All right. So it's helping us learn discrimination and identification to get to comprehension. What does it look like when you meet a client who has really poor decoding? Let me show you. So this is a kiddo. This is the very first time I'm meeting this kid. And his speech is really indistinct and unclear. You can tell that he does not know that speech is made up of individual phonemes. They're just some nebulous little blob of acoustic energy. You listen.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Hi, how are you? Hi.
Oh my gosh, that's the remix. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry about that. One thing I should probably mention, this kid is 14 years old. He has something called pachygyria, where the gyri of his brain are broad and flat. So he actually has some neurodivergence happening. So in case you're wondering, and most people would not have assessed him, but I know a clinician who did assess him and said, I don't know where to start with on therapy. And that's why he was referred to me. Here we go. Shoot. Let's try again.
Hi. How are you?
Good.
Are you having a good day?
Good.
Awesome. What's your favorite thing in the whole wide world?
Racing game.
Really? Tell me about that.
I work for 30 now.
Oh.
31 now, so. Yes, how are you doing?
That's cool. I'm doing very well. I hear that you do Special Olympics.
Yes, I am.
Okay, yeah, I'm very excited about that. So I had no idea what was going on in that conversation. So I was like, all right, let's see if we can do some decoding work and help improve how well he hears these speech sounds. So this is what happened. This is, 11 sessions in. We still had a few sessions to go afterward. See if you can hear a difference in his speech.
Awesome. I'm doing really well. How are you?
Good.
Good. Fantastic. Okay, so can I ask you some questions? What is your favorite thing in the whole wide world? What do you love?
Play game.
You like playing games? What kind of games do you like playing?
Xbox One.
Oh, Xbox One. Is there a certain game on Xbox One that you like?
I play like cars.
Oh, is there a car racing game on there? Yep.
Okay, so hopefully you could hear a difference in his ability to decode. And he actually had reduced speech therapy sessions while we were working together because of COVID. So our main goal is to create a deficit-specific plan that works from easy to hard to increase the well-being of people with APD. And who should we help? When should we help them? Anyone having these difficulties as soon as we realize that they've got them. So the youngest person I've worked with is my own daughter at 10 months of age. I did some auditory training that I'm going to show you in a little bit. And the oldest person was 99, but then she decided to put it off for a year, and that was 12 years ago. So I think it is safe to assume that she has matured out of auditory processing issues. I was going to take a break right now to have you ask some questions, but if you have questions, can you put them in the chat box and then we'll clear through all of them at the very end, because I want to show you some really juicy stuff. What I'm about to show you is going to blow your mind, and it brings back that hearing loss component. Every now and then you have a situation that happens with a client that permanently changes your brain. And I had one of those moments, and I'm going to share it with you. This woman's name is Lila. She is an audiologist who's been unilaterally implanted. She had a sudden hearing loss at 16 during a snowstorm where she couldn't be seen for a week. She currently is bimodal. She wears a hearing aid on the left ear and a CI on the right ear. She was implanted on February of 2021, and she was activated on March of 2021. Right after we met, I just said, hey, I want to do auditory training. I just want to see how that changes your outcomes. I want to do auditory training that I normally would do with a person with auditory processing disorder, but let me just see how it goes with a cochlear implant. So I did this little test with her. It's usually 68 items long. I'm just going to show you a little bit. This is Jack Katz saying a speech sound and her repeating the speech sound back. So she's just been implanted, but this is streaming to both her hearing aid ear and her cochlear implant ear.
This is the phoneme recognition test. Shh.
Shh. Raspberry. O.
Oi.
I. sounded like a click.
J.
You?
So you could hear that, and I'm hoping, I'm going to test you really quickly, just internally. Of the 4 different Buffalo model categories, which one do you think that would be? Did you just say decoding? You are brilliant and a total mind reader, or am I reading your mind? A decoding problem. With hearing loss, we're like, speech and noise, speech and noise, speech and noise. That's the problem, speech and noise. But if a person isn't getting phonemes in quiet, they're not going to get them in noise either. So I also did a little bit of testing. Now, this is the tricky part. She's an audiologist, so she knows all of the speech lists, right? Her right CI ear, so we did a pre-test on the 5th of April, the same day we did that one. She had 44% correct in this newly implanted ear. The left ear has the hearing aid. She had 64% correct. So then we did 5 sessions of auditory training, and then I wanted to do just a probe in the middle just to see how things were going, because I was like really curious. I'm the type of person who can't bake a cake without like looking in on it like 28 times, and then it still tastes awful. But anyway, I'm better at therapy than cake baking.
Shh. V. Oi.
Oi.
J. Ah.
Ah.
Okay, all right. So we didn't even train those phonemes, but that's how much her decoding improved just in general during that period, and also her awareness with the cochlear implant. So like, yeah, so that's good. So we did a quick retest also then and found that her right hearing aid ear had gone from, right cochlear implant ear had gone from 44% to 52 for an 8% improvement. I'm okay with that. That sounds pretty good. The left hearing aid ear, though, went to 92% correct. So from 64 to 92 for a 28% improvement. And I was stoked. I'm like, yeah, look at us go. We're changing her ability to understand speech in that hearing aid ear. A 28% improvement is awesome. And then she said this, and it was the moment that changed everything for me.
So does that mean that if I would have gotten auditory therapy that I might not have needed a CI? The FDA protocol just says you have to wear hearing aids that are set appropriately for 3 months. So I've been wearing hearing aids set appropriately for years and years. I love my CI. I feel like I understand things so much better since getting it. It's really frustrating that oral rehab wasn't really an option. Now I'm like seriously wondering, would hearing aids have been enough? And I can't go back. You can't like do over, the CI's already there, but now I'm wondering, like, that's always going to be in the back of my head. And it wasn't really an option. It really makes me wonder why oral rehab isn't a part of the protocol.
Let me just be really clear. I am very pro hearing aid, very pro CI, very pro awareness. But when she said that, it stopped me in my tracks. And I immediately did what any audiologist would do. And I needed to look at her pre-implantation audiogram. And I dropped a couple choice words when I saw this. I seriously wonder what the change would have been. I don't know what it is, but it has inspired me to look at this problem in a different way, to see if there is some kind of auditory training we can do beforehand, during this process. The last thing I want to do is slow a person's roll when they're about to get a CI, because a lot of these people are waiting way too long, are not getting referred fast enough, whatever. There are some people with CIs that absolutely need them straight away. And then there are people like her with a young brain and actually decent thresholds that could potentially have some benefits from auditory training. Woo! Once again, the ear, the hearing aid, the cochlear implant, that is the hardware. The brain is the software. Audiologists have been so caught up on the hardware for so long that we've forgotten how to change the brain. But we need both hardware and software to improve a user experience. This is in our scope of practice. So I'm wondering if we should take a break here because it's been an hour. Let's go ahead and take a break for 5 minutes. And while I take a break and while anybody gets up to go to the loo, Australian there, I'll also spend that 5 minutes taking any questions. So yeah, does anybody want to ask some questions?
The only thing I see is I mean, people are just commenting on some of the valid points you're making, but asking about what the phoneme awareness test is, but you're going to be going over or the test. Yeah. Do you want to explain the phoneme test?
The phoneme recognition test?
I was thinking she was asking about therapy, but you're going to go over therapy in a minute. But yeah,
I'm going to go. Yeah. By the way, the next hour is me showing you therapy, like putting you through a session of therapy so you can see what it actually looks like. I'm not just going to like mic drop it there and be like, y'all can't even imagine what it is. See you later. Yeah, so I will show it to you next. But the phoneme recognition test is a test that I don't normally do, if I'm totally honest with you. It is on the central test battery CD. So it's on the same test that has the SSW, the words in quiet words and noise, and phonemic synthesis. And it's like track 7. Krista, you have regularly done buffalo model work. Do you use the phoneme recognition test much at all? To totally put you on this.
I mean,
no.
To be honest, I use the phonemic synthesis, but I don't do the phoneme recognition test. Yeah.
What I love about it is that you can use it through free field. Okay, so you can just put it out your speakers and just get information on how these people are hearing these speech sounds. Because if a person's word recognition score is super low and you do that, you know they actually have potential to improve it with therapy.
Yeah, I don't test it formally, but I definitely pay attention to it, I guess, qualitatively. So if I see similar phoneme errors on tests that require discrimination, and particularly if I see memory, I'll do the TAPS memory battery. And if I see that the number memory is in place, working memory is in place, they can do sentence memory, but the word memory is really low. And then you look at the errors that they make and they say nice, boat, pen, sat instead of knife, boat, pen, sack. That just gives
then
me,
you can see that.
I know
right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we have to do a little bit of like extrapolation and a little bit of comparison. And we also don't know if sometimes things are a memory thing or a decoding thing. But what I like about the phoneme recognition test is it isolates it to just those sounds. So we can clearly say, wow, this is really decoding. So I want to challenge anyone who is in here who has the central test battery. You can get it from Precision Acoustics if you don't have it, or you can get it from Oak Tree as well. It's a little bit more expensive through Oak Tree. But anyway, you like try it with a client, especially one with hearing loss. It will blow your mind. It's amazing. Cool. Awesome. All right. So I'm going to, we're going to take, yeah, sorry.
I just want to remind everyone that if they do want CEUs to go ahead and put in their name, their AAA number, their ASHA number.
Yeah, specifically, I'm going to tell you who I need it from.
Fantastic. And I'm going to take a moment to just go grab a loo. I promise to come back. I'm pretty sure. I'll be right back.
All right. So I need, and if you don't have these numbers, that's fine. Just send me a message and say you don't need the CEUs, but I need numbers from Emily, Rula, Skylar. Oh, I think Skylar, you already told me you don't have them. Kate, Felicia, and Julia. So if you can just send me AAA and or ASHA numbers, that would be great. And if Elisa is still on, I think she's already logged off, or that might have been Elizabeth. But anyway.
Yeah, her Her son is ill, so she had to
Okay.
go take care of him. Yep.
Oh, okay. All right. So I'll take her off. All right. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd be curious if there's any newer graduates from an AUD program, how much they go into oral rehab. Because I know back in my day, it was like one course. It was not very intensive, not a lot of practical training on it.
My daughter
so-
just graduated from UF and they got just a brief overview of APD and oral rehab in their pediatric class. And I know when she was looking at AUD schools, one of the questions she would ask was what kind of APD classes they had. Believe it or not, Vanderbilt told them, oh, we don't even teach APD. We don't have anybody on staff to do it, which they're the #1 school, which is just mind blowing to me. So, so yeah, I actually did a little cross reference just for a power presentation because I'm trying to convince Bernal University to start a program there because their allied health programs are expanding. And so I did some research. I looked at all 70+ schools that are out there and to see if APD is a part of their curriculum, and it's shocking how few.
Yeah, it really is.
I think it was less than 40% is what you said,
It's
Krista.
really low.
But this is what I actually have a worse bone to pick. I'd rather that a school not teach it at all if they're going to put a person who teaches the course who doesn't believe it exists.
Or doesn't really understand it. And to UF's credit, their current professor who teaches it, who taught it this year, and they teach it every other year, she actually reached out to me and she said, I feel confident teaching adults, but not peds. So I'm going to co-teach it in 2023.
Awesome.
Great.
Brilliant. Good on ya. And I mean, also, it's been interesting because I've been working with some researchers. We had like a great debate recently, and it was interesting because like the researchers, I mean, it's that research side versus the practical side. And like, I'm in the trenches. Krista, you're in the trenches. Like, we see what practically is a problem and also ways through that problem. And if we're getting advice from researchers who haven't done that therapeutic work necessarily, then I don't know how much relevance. I'm gonna spill some tea here real quick. If people who are doing research say there should be no language in the testing, and then whatever tests come out of that don't seem very relevant necessarily to what a person's problem is, if therapy is to make those test scores better, and then later on they say, okay, the test scores increased, but nothing generalized to day-to-day life. So if we're like, okay, let's make the testing not relevant, but then let's make the therapy assess the not relevant results, and then, oh, but nothing happened as a result, so therapy doesn't work. Like, no, that's BS. Number one, we're chasing our tail.
APD is not a thing. That's
yeah. And then they'll be like, and in conclusion, because you can't help it, there's nothing you can do for APD, which I would say the definition to me of what auditory processing disorder is something that is treatable, you know? And like, if you've never seen it treated, it's a hard time, you'll have a hard time believing it. But like, my goal with this talk is to help you guys see what it looks like so that you can see that the changes happen. Because when Krista and I, when we meet a child or an adult who has an auditory processing issue, it's like having a seed when you can picture the tree. You already know what their potential is post-therapy. And I think that if more people could picture the trees, we'd have a whole lot more forests out there. So, hello, soapbox. Okay, sweet. Let's go ahead and do auditory training. Okay, so if anybody wants to come off of, like, add their camera again, like it's a little bit strange to like just talk to a whole bunch of names. Like, I'm okay with it. I'm okay. I'm picturing all of you naked. But I'm just going to do a demonstration really quickly. If you are naked and you want to stay off camera, that is also okay. Okay, I'll just assume. Fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to take you through a session of auditory training. Oh, thank you, Catherine. Thank you. Oh, thank you. I'm not going to make you guys do anything embarrassing this time. Promise. Yes. Nice. Okay. Can everyone grab 4 little pieces of paper and a pen? Let me grab mine too. I am going to take you through some different therapy. And the very first therapy that I'm going to take you through is decoding therapy. So this is called the phonemic training program. And for those of you who want to pass the really hard CEU test that I did, you'll know that this is a therapy for decoding. All right. Decoding therapy is phonemic training program. If a person doesn't understand phonemes, what do? We teach them the freaking phonemes. And while each person's individual issues are specific to them, we only have a finite number of speech sounds in our lexicon. So let's just train all of those as a baseline. So Jack Cat says it would be really silly to build a house starting with the 4th floor. So let's start at this base level. Listen to this sound. I'm going to say a sound you've not heard before. Totally lying. You've heard this a lot. Listen to this sound. D. Okay? Once again. D. 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 We hear it in words like dog and dig and dinosaur and diplodocus and or diplodocus. I actually don't know how to say that one. Dish soap. Okay? I try not to flash my D in public too often, but if you could all write the letter D down on a piece of paper and put it down right in front of you. Every time I say D, I want you to take your finger and tap this card. Please point to D. How about D? Okay, you might be like, it has to get more complicated than this, right? It does, I promise. Every now and then I'm going to say a sound that's not in front of you, and I want you to tap way to one side or way to the other. Please point to shabalabalabala. I can't trick you. You're too smart. Please point to D. Now, in case you are tapping the card and leaving your finger on it, I want it to be like real quick, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to improve your reaction time. Okay? Please point to D. Where is D? Can you find A? Where is D? Good job. Let's put this one to the side. The next sound is this one. Eh, like end, extra, Edward, Excalibur, endometriosis. Sometimes I mess up and I do like really bad words. Not around kids, but adults remember the sound better if you make it weird. This is the short E, and you see how it has a little smile above it? Well, the smile, we can remember, means that it's short, and kids are shorter than adults and they smile more often. All right, so this is the short E. Eh. When I say eh, I want you to take your finger and tap that card. Eh. Eh. Good. Let's put D and eh next to each other. We're going to start doing some discrimination between these two sounds, and they're different enough that it might not be too difficult. Please point to D. Eh. D. D. Good job. The next sound is this one. Like mum, Michigan, Miley Cyrus, Munchkin, Master of the Universe. Please point to How about Good. Fantastic. Okay. Now let's put D, eh, and in front of you. Please point to D. Eh. D. Fantastic. All right. The next thing we would do is something called itch words, where we actually have the child, well, we usually have it written like dessert. So I would say D, and you would the child would tap the card and say dessert back. By the way, people will be like, do you do the same therapy with adults? It seems really basic. Yes. This is a majority of what changed Jackie's auditory processing abilities. Okay. Crazy. And if you tell the adults, yes, this seems basic, but it's really important. I've just started work with an adult who has an auditory brainstem implant, and we are doing this exact same thing. And it's changing and improving. Woohoo! Isn't this exciting? So what I'd like you to do is write dessert, elephant, and mud under those sounds that I've got. And what I'm going to do is I'll say the sound, D, and you tap it and say dessert or elephant or mud based on the sound I did. D. Good. Yes. D. Eh. And every now and then I'll say a sound that's not in front of you. V. Good job. Awesome. Thank you. You all did very well. All right, let me share my screen again with you. Okay, tell me if you can see it. Can you see? Yep, cool. Awesome. Thank you, Krista. Appreciate it. So we're trying to move up Erber's model. We're working on decoding, leading to identification. Now, my husband and I started doing some dance classes, and they taught dance the same way that I teach speech sounds, same way Jack taught me how to teach speech sounds. So the very first session of dance we went to, they taught us how to do the two-step. The next week, we came in and they pretended, they kind of pretended like we had not even learned the two-step, and they started all the way over with it, and they reintroduced it to us as if we couldn't remember anything we did the previous week. Then they taught us the cha-cha. The week after that, they pretended we hadn't paid attention and they re-taught us the cha-cha again. Put on country music, we danced the two-step, and then they taught us the tango. The week after that, they reviewed the tango. They turned on country music. We did the two-step. We also did the cha-cha. And then we danced with ribbons. My husband loved it. I'm kidding. He would hate that. So if we were meeting next week, I would meet with you and we would go back over the D, the short E and M like we just did. And then I would add the B, short A and N. And we would keep moving through sounds like this. So I want you all to practice the phonemes with me. If anyone is feeling brave, I would really appreciate, you don't have to come onto the video, but if you can unmute yourself, it can help me get feedback on how things are going. So just your audio or video too. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say the sound, and then I want you to repeat back what I have said. We're going to practice saying all of these speech sounds in the way that we would say them for phonemic training. So please say ah.
Ah.
Good, thank you. Yay, I love you guys. All right, A.
A.
A. Good, well done. Now on this next one, it's not ba, it's b. Okay, so we want to take the schwa sound off of that consonant. So I'll say b and you say b. Here we go. B.
B.
B. Nice. Ch. Good. D.
D.
Good. Eh.
Eh.
Good. E.
E.
Good. Good. G.
G.
All right, a little bit shorter there. G.
G.
Nice. The H sound. Nice. I.
I.
Good. I. You guys are awesome. J. Nice. K. All right, this next one is really tricky. This one I would think was la, but it's l. Nice. Because it's not la e pops that we eat. It's l, lollies. So l. Good. The M is also tricky because we're going to use a little bit of a tell at the end. Good. Now, a little bit of a tell at the end because is going to be too hard to distinguish from right? So good. And good. Ah. O. Good job. Now watch out. You don't want it to sound like you want it to be Good. Wonderful. Shh. Good job. Now, this is wrong on here, but anyway, there's two TH sounds. There's the voiceless one and the voiced one. And I like to use lots of spit bubbles to help people hear the difference between the voiceless TH and the F. All right, so listen to my spit bubbles for the voiceless one, and then I'll have you guys do it too. Here we go. Good job. Well done. All right, and now the loud one. Good. Ooh.
Ooh.
And some of you are like, this is not even the most awkward thing you've made me do on Zoom today. That's awesome. Good. Now this W sound is also weird. Hold on. It's like waving a wand. Good job. The Y sound is also strange. Yee. Nice. Wonderful. It's not yeah because we don't have ya, L-O, right? Next one is Z. Aw.
Aw.
Good. The next one is sounds like you're getting hit in the stomach. Nice. Had 3 hits there. Ow.
Ow.
Oi.
Oi.
Good. Nice. And then this last one is ng. Thank you so much. You can mute yourselves again. You did very, very well. I'm very proud of you. And I'm so sorry for all the awkward stuff I've made you do today. So my daughter at 10 months of age was not babbling. I was a little bit concerned. And of course, you know, I was like phonemic awareness. I thought this was going to be something easy for her. But she was one of those kids who was an early walker. But some people say you can't walk and talk at the same time. So I started doing auditory training with her, slightly different from what I showed you, but some of the same concepts. And this is her at 1 year and 10 months of age. What I'm showing you here is not a test. It's not therapy. It's a probe just to see how we're doing.
Sounds. Whoa, do you know any of these sounds? Why? Yee, yee. Cool. What else do you know? Oh, cool. Hey, awesome. What about this guy? What is that? It's R. You know. Whoa, what's that one? What's that one? A. How about this one? Q, that's right. What about E? What about this one? B. B. How about this one? That's right. Snake. That's right. Snakes start with S. What about Smeagol. Smeagol starts with S too. That's right.
All right, she's a Kiwi, so that's totally fine. Okay. Also, when we're doing decoding work, I want to help build up from just individual sounds to be able to put things back into words. And sometimes that goes really well. And then sometimes it doesn't go so well. So here's this teenager with pachygyria. Basically, we've done most of the speech sounds, and I want to do an activity where he takes speech sounds and he puts them together to make words. And unfortunately, the word that he comes up with, like, I try to make it more interesting by saying that it's going to be a new name. So he's just drawing random cards out of a pile. But the word he comes up with, to me, strikes a chord.
For you. If we put
No.
okay, this is my name. This is my name. We're gonna change my name. I'm no longer gonna be Angela. You're making a new name for me. V and A together makes. Look down. Look at the sounds next to each other.
V-A.
How about hello? My name is Vay.
Hey, that's a good one.
Is it a spelling bee? Okay, you know what? I like to have a longer name than just Vay. So can you give him let him pick another consonant?
J.
Okay, this is gonna be great. All right, so my name is now Vay, and then let's put J at the end. All right, what's my name? Is it Vage?
I don't know.
Sorry, I think there are some sounds that when they go together, they put together really funny words.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was dying. That went for 4 minutes of me trying to get my act together. It is simultaneously one of the best and worst moments of my professional career. So yeah, I thought he was calling me vagina. That's fantastic. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is I'm going to show you another decoding task called the phonemic synthesis therapy. And it has 14 different lessons, and it starts off really basic. I'm going to show you a little bit of lesson 4. And what I want you to do is I want you to actually do the activity. So he says, sh, e, and you put the sounds together, and that tells you the word is she. So what I want you to do is listen to the sounds, wait for the beep, and respond back as quickly as possible. I'll demonstrate on the first one.
E.
E, sorry. Oh, let's try this one.
Egg.
Egg. Your turn.
Ooh. S. A. K. E.
Eat. All right, so think about this like circuit training. Now, for me, it's always ear and brain day. Sorry. So think of it as circuit training. So when a person comes in and they have an hour-long session, we're kind of doing different tasks. So the first one that I showed you, the tapping one, that's phonemic training, and that's a decoding task. The next thing we do is something called words and noise training. I haven't shown you yet, but I'm about to show you. And then we do another decoding task, which is the phonemic synthesis, what I just showed you there. Then we do words and noise training and short-term auditory memory work. All right, so we are changing up which category we're working on because they might fatigue in one area and we can still work on another one and keep on layering like that. So tolerance fading memory is that difficulty extracting speech from background noise and also short-term memory issues. So what should we do to fix that? Should we work on like pulling words out from background noise and short-term auditory memory? Oh, that would be awesome. Okay, let's try it. So normally a person would listen to 80 words and repeat them back. It would start with no noise whatsoever. The noise would increase and it would continue on like that. So we're going to start, what I'm going to do is you're going to hear words in quiet. We're not going to do all 80 words. I'm just doing 16 for you today. So you repeat the word back as soon as you hear it. Here we go. And ignore the noise as well as you can.
Paste.
Paste. Your turn.
Yard. Hurt. Smell. Job. Sleeve. Thanks. Round. O. Horse. Blue. Print. Men. Ask. False. Sun.
Once again, if you struggled with that, don't diagnose yourself. That is completely normal. All right. And also, I hope that didn't get super loud for you guys. But so we are hearing in background noise. We do a list of 80 words each week and see how that improves things. And it's cool because when you're doing these word lists each week, you start to see them improve in quiet first. So those first 10 words are in quiet, and you start seeing their ability to repeat those back easier. There's like 600 randomized words, so there's lots of lists of these, and then you get to see that improve, and then you also see their tolerance to the background noise improve. And so the first thing is to tolerate it and then to extract the speech out of it better. Then the next thing is short-term auditory memory training. If any of you, oh, I'm so sorry, Widex. Starkey has this really cool app. I have no conflict there. Is called Hear Coach. Sorry, Michelle. I'm sorry. You let me know as soon as you have a short-term auditory memory app. I will promote the heck out of it. All right. Thank you. So you can download this free app on your phone, and it's called Starkey Hear Coach, and it's free, and it's kind of basic. But start with the repeater and just try to move up in levels. So it's like 10 words, and you can even hit pause and it'll replay the item for you. So it does numbers and words, and that's really handy. Then it also has word target where you can help to learn decoding, but it starts a little bit too high up. So it's not like a good primary therapy. And the last thing is word racer, and that's a little bit of auditory closure. So word racer also has some weird sentences in it, which are like super American, and Australian and Kiwi clients of mine are like, did that really just say that? Like, for example, Eve was made from Adam's rib. Actual item in there. I bet Widex wouldn't have done that. See, that's why I'm going to say the Widex app is way, way better than the Starkey one. Whew. Okay.
Well, our hearing aids sound better, but they.
Oh, there you go. The sound quality. We need that awareness to be better, more access to the thing. Go Widex. Perfect. That's awesome. Okay. The next part is memory interference training demonstration. Now, Catherine, do you mind helping me? I know I'm calling you out. Do you mind coming off of mute? Yes, awesome. Do you like number games?
Sure.
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna totally put you on the spot. You had no preparation for this, so however you do is however you do. What I'm gonna do, sorry, I'm gonna come back on camera. what I'm going to do is I'm going to say a number. I'm going to say a number to you, and I want you to just remember that number. Then I'm going to tell you a second number, and I want you to tell me the first number I said. I'm going to tell you a third number. I want you to tell me the second one I said.
I'm going to suck.
No, you're going to be awesome. You're going to be great. Okay. So I'm going to say the first one and just don't say anything back. Hold on. Here we go. 5, 7,
5,
9,
7.
3.
Am I supposed to say the third one?
Yep.
Oh, 9.
You're great. 2.
3.
Yes. And the last number I said was
2.
Can everybody clap for Catherine? You just did an amazing job. That is called memory interference training. And that is another way that we can work on short-term auditory memory, working memory. So thank you, Catherine. You are awesome. All right, let me talk to you about what I see as the future of auditory processing services. And then I'm just going to wrap up here, and then we're going to take questions. I have a dream that we are going to be able to transform what we are doing clients, doing treatment planning using artificial intelligence. What we can do with machine learning is we can take client data in, because there's a lot of heterogeneity, meaning that there's a lot of differences across the population. So we can take in all of this information about all of these different types of clients and the things that they experience. And then we compare that with the different interventions that have been tried and see how their outcomes have been afterward. And we can use machine learning to compare all of this data to create predictions of how certain clients with certain types of auditory processing difficulties can have different interventions, like Little Ears, like Hear Coach, like ARIA, like Acoustic Pioneer. There's lots of different types of interventions. I want to see which ones, based on which type of client we have the best outcomes. And I want that to guide our treatment. Of course, being able to do the therapy one-on-one with people allows you to move up and down Erber's model and to make those decisions based on what you're seeing. This is the other part of the future. Here's a quick 1.5 minute video from my best friend, Nina Kraus. She's not actually my best friend. She doesn't know me, but she should, because we would get out on like a house on fire. Here we go. Let's listen to her.
The frequency following response is a physiologic response that is obtained by delivering sound in the ear, and we are able to measure a response that actually resembles the stimulus very well. So this is the sound wave, and here is the brain wave. It gives us tremendous precision in sound processing, and the person who is getting their response measured does not have to perform a task, even though it is rooted in the brainstem, really reflects the entire brain and reflects what we have learned in our life in sound. If you play a sound and you record from a single neuron, you see the neuron will respond. Now, if you teach the animal that the sound has meaning, so here we have trumpet means more carrots, so the animal learns that something will happen when the sound occurs. The animal is the same, the sound is the same, but the brain has changed. So here's the frequency following response. We deliver sound into the ear, and using just 3 scalp electrodes, we can measure a response that looks like and even sounds like. So you can hear that the sound wave and the brain wave actually sound like each other. We can analyze the response that we get, the brain wave, by doing a Fourier analysis. It reflects how good a job the brain does at processing different sound ingredients, and it reflects our experience in sound.
Now, I'm talking about the future with this. I mean, this is a good way to say, yes, this is an auditory issue, right? But it's actually already being used clinically. So there are at least 5 audiologists I know of who are using this in their clinics, and the very first client I know of to have had the FFR, the frequency following response, Buffalo model therapy, and then a retest has just been sent to me last week. So these were the initial findings. The important part is the DAW response consistency. So how close did that signal match what the response was from the neurons? And the retest went from 0.7, we want 0.7 or greater to be normal, went in the right ear from 0.66 to 0.864, and the left from 0.653 to 0.741. This is a test of decoding. That's exciting stuff. Want to hear what's even cooler? We can do this at birth. So in the future, this may be a part of our test battery or screening tools. We can screen for potential speech and language and auditory processing issues at birth. So cool. So I created a map in 2008. This was back with Krista, actually, at the very beginning of the International Guild of Auditory Processing Specialists, so that clients who needed services could find those of us who are doing this work. And there were only 250 of us worldwide that I could find that were doing auditory processing work, either testing or therapy. And I'm talking about only audiologists and SLPs. In 2018, I did another check, and it was still only 250. Some people had died, some people had added new clinics, but it was maintaining, it was stagnant. In 2020, I've checked again. Now we've increased the number to 364. I have a personal goal for 2022 to double the map and have 500 audiologists and SLPs doing this work. And I'm doing that by teaching online classes on testing and on treatment. And I'm mentoring people to get there. So ASHA did a survey and checked, and they asked how many audiologists routinely do auditory processing tests, and only 1.4% of respondents said that they were. But if 5% of the population have auditory processing issues in the world, 300 million people need the help. So the idea that auditory processing disorder is potentially overdiagnosed is the most freaking hilarious thing I've ever heard in my life. My 2 takeaways for you. A hearing aid, a cochlear implant, or a normal hearing ear is the hardware, the brain is the software, and we need high-tech and low-tech solutions to increase the user experience, especially if that tech is from Widex. I'm just kidding. And then the low-tech part would be the therapy part. If you see clients you wouldn't normally see, you will have experiences and insights that you have never had. Almost all of the clients that I have shown you today would not have been evaluated for auditory processing in a standard audiology clinic right now. But you can see the changes that occur in their lives as a result of intervention make that worth the time. We can increase the well-being of people through improved auditory skills. And are we ready to help them? To me, the future of audiology is in decoding. It's increasing a person's ability to quickly and accurately digest speech. When I get to do the work that I'm doing with these clients and doing this therapy, it reminds me why I became an audiologist in the first place. So I hope that you can help me grow more forests as well. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I'd be so happy to chat with you more about this. You can check out the website, Auditory Processing Institute, if you want to. If not, also super cool. Totally understand. Connect with me on socials and slip into my DMs. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it. I'll take questions now.
Hey, Angela, I had a couple of just direct messages to me. So maybe you could give some feedback on this, but what are some ways that you would suggest that people, some test batteries and some diagnostics for adults, easy ways to just add to the current adult patient battery in order to start identifying this?
Number one, that HHIA, that thing is wicked good. You know, that whole idea that audiograms don't talk, clients do. Hi, buddy. I think that's really important, right? Because some people are like, if the quick SIN isn't very sensitive, what should we add to screen for this? Just talk to the client. It's so weird because with hearing loss, people often have denial, right? I don't know if I have met an adult client with auditory processing disorder yet who has denial. They know they have a problem. In fact, it's the audiologist who usually has the denial, not the client. So if you do, let's say a client comes in, they fill out the HHIA. You can get that HHIA for free. I'll put a link in the comments where you can download that and just add it to your practice. I feel like I'm flying blind without it. Like I use it all the time now. So they fill in that questionnaire. You do the hearing test, then compare the questionnaire to the audiogram. Do those match up? Cool. If they do, cool. If they don't, you may want to do some auditory processing or refer them to somebody who does the testing. Pardon me. If they have a hearing loss and you fit them with hearing aids, and that HHIA score, check that HHIA score after their demonstration or after their first 2 weeks and see if that score dropped. If that score went from 82 to 14 just by using Widex hearing aids, then you're where you need to be, all right? You're good to go. If that score has gone from 80 to 60, and you've already done real ear, you know that the hearing aids are set correctly, then you might be needing to look at what else we need to do for the brain. Yeah. Sweet. I hope that helps. And somebody put something for Hear Builder in. Anyway, go ahead. What's the next question?
So I was the one that put Hear Builder. I was just giving some other options for memory remediation.
Yeah, the only issue with Hear Builder is it's quite young.
It is. It's very childish looking, but it does get difficult. So I tell my middle schoolers, high schoolers, adults, just kind of deal with the kiddie background in the games.
I get it.
Because it is challenging. I mean, the memory stuff, they'll give you 6 numbers and then pause for 10 seconds and then give you the keypad to type it in. So it's difficult.
Yeah, let me show you this too. All right, ignore the comments and stuff on it. All right, can you see Erber's model again?
Yes.
Okay, so Claire Sell, a friend of mine, created this where, awareness is remote mic hearing aid, cochlear implant hearing aids. Like there's a big thing. There's like low gain hearing aids. There's like an audiologist who's fitting these online, which is not ideal. But anyway, so like low gain hearing aids are going out there and it does help increase awareness. Then discrimination, that's like cap dots and zoo caper and insane airplane. Also in this discrimination area, maybe little ears. The next one is identification, and that's also little ears, like their discrimination task. So we've got Hear Coach, Hear Builder, the ARIA training, and then we're moving up further kind of between identification and comprehension is Soundstorm and Fast for Word. And then comprehension training is like the Bellis dichotic training with the 2 iPods. So we want to start as basic as possible. And I think the problem is when we start up real high, then it's really hard to get at some of those earlier skills. So I hope that kind of helps. What do you reckon?
Yeah. No, I think that
makes
sense.
Good.
Yeah.
Cool.
Scrolling through real quick to see if there are any other.
Yeah. And by the way, if anybody watched this and they were like, nah, this was fully BS, I cannot be offended. It is impossible to offend me. If anybody wants to ask some hard or critical questions, go ahead and ask them. I'm totally fine with it. Like, growth happens on the other side of an awkward conversation. So if anybody wants to talk about anything, please feel free to raise a hand, or if you want to talk about that, the hearing aid client, whatever.
Skylar, you had a question about coverage. Do you think that coverage for these services and testing is the problem? Am I saying that correctly? What was your question there?
Yes, that is actually a question of mine and a concern, just because I know the area that I potentially want to serve is in a relatively rural area. And I know for a lot of the folks, the people that I would serve, they just wouldn't necessarily have the out-of-pocket funds to pay for these services and these tests. So I was just trying to find out if this would be, do y'all find that this is an issue to get the training and to get the testing?
Can I just go ahead and say that I do think that a couple different, you've brought up a lot of really good points. I do think that there is a small part of poverty or a small part of poverty that is caused by auditory processing issues. Like, you can't get really good jobs unless you understand what you're hearing. You can't learn to read and write and spell unless you understand what you're hearing, like all of these things. And I do worry about, like, because I'll have people come into the office and like they will say that these problems have been happening in every generation of their family. And it's like, how do we stop that? How do we stop that from happening? So thanks for that. And also, it seems like people who go to live in more rural communities will be the ones who struggle with this more. And so they're like, oh, I'm just going to go to this quiet place over here. I'm going to go live over here, So yes, you're right. Like, funding is not ideal. Like, an auditory processing assessment can get reimbursed at different rates. Therapy can sometimes be more expensive. Like, we can find cheaper ways to get good outcomes, but that usually means that it's going to be more app-based, or it's going to be, it's not going to be one-on-one therapy with clinicians, which is awful. So yeah, like it's something that I think about quite a lot, because I do think that it's one of our greatest ways that we can impact our world, So I'm really sorry. I think you're absolutely dead on with what you're asking with that question. And yes, it is a problem. But I think that if more people are doing the work, we have a chance at better reimbursement rates, or we at least have some chance of getting some kind of, because like sometimes audiologists can't even code for the therapy. Like, that's a bit of a problem, right, Krista? I don't know how it is in Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, we took insurance initially, and that lasted about 9 months. I ended up paying my support staff more to chase down the collection of the reimbursement and the payment for that than I was able to bring in. So it just ended up being a waste of my time. I'm a chatter, and I just talk too much. I spend too much time with the families. So I guess we give more of a concierge service. If you could just do a wham bam, thank you ma'am kind of approach to it, and just get in, get out, and just do the bare minimum, and find ways to cut corners, you could afford to do it without accepting insurance. But it doesn't work for my personality. We did a workaround with Medicaid for a while, and then Medicaid got too complicated with having to get authorizations, or I guess approvals for therapy. They'll pay for the therapy, but they won't pay for the assessment. But you can't get the therapy without an assessment. The only reason they pay for the therapy is because it shares the same code as speech therapy. And so it's just kind of a weird loophole. So we would bill just the basic audio for about $150, do it for an hour. And then I would have them come in for the first 3 initial sessions were just to do 30-minute just diagnostic therapy sessions to fill in the baseline testing. So that worked semi-legitimately for a few years. But then it just got to be too difficult with the secondary. You'd have Medicaid primary and Blue Cross Blue Shield secondary, and the Blue Cross Blue Shield. I can't even go into it. It got so complicated, and we were doing so well with our private pay, we just finally had to drop it. But District 2 Public Health in North Georgia is looking to expand. They had extra funds in their PYPI, I think is what they call it. So the previous year's money that's left over. And so we're getting a booth and a full setup. And I'm a Medicaid provider through them. So my ultimate goal, at least for the North Georgia rural counties, is to start doing that whole Medicaid process again up in North Georgia. And so anybody in South Georgia that wants to try to do this and who's already a Medicaid provider, you want to message me, call me, email me, whatever, I'm happy to share the process that I use that worked for reimbursement.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Krista. Okay, so in Atlanta, who do you refer to? Adults or kids? Krista is awesome. Vicky Hamilton is also there.
Yeah.
Yep. And then also Heather Rinke, is that how you say it? Does anybody know? You guys know who I'm talking about? She is about to open a clinic that is going to work specifically with auditory processing and dyslexia. Since there are so many dyslexia schools, she's getting Orton Gillingham trained. She may not have told anyone this yet. I'm just going to go ahead and shout it from the rooftop. So she's looking at dyslexia
Is she in the
as
Atlanta
well.
area? She's in Atlanta?
Yeah.
Really? Do you have her
Yeah.
contact? Give me her contact information.
Yes, no, you guys are going to love working together. Lots of synchronicity there.
Yeah.
So she is starting that. And also people who are dyslexic. Yep. Krista. I mean, people with dyslexia, autism, ADHD, like all of these things, they do have more comorbidity with auditory processing disorder. But if the auditory skills can be increased for all of these, like the on-flow effects from that can be so helpful. Like as a parent, you just want your kid to have the best chance at a good life, right? And so as an audiologist, all I can do is auditory skills. But if that can help be that defining difference that changes from what they're able to do, I'm going to do it. Because like there was a thing, so we have test materials that go down to 3.5 years of age. All right, there's normed test materials, the auditory skills assessment down to 3.5 years of age. There was an old belief that we couldn't test below 7. People said maybe we shouldn't diagnose before 7, but audiologists took that to mean we couldn't test before 7. It is different. It is different. You can definitely test down to 3.5 years of age. Most of these parents will tell you that their kids first showed auditory processing issues when they were like 2. So yeah, early intervention is key. And it's not like we're doing life-changing surgery or anything. We're just trying to help them improve.
Right. And we just want them to be able to start, like you said, you started therapy with your daughter at 10 months old. So just starting to make sure that they are understanding speech sounds. We call it a developmental assessment, birth to 3.5. I do an auditory processing screening, 3.5 to 5. And starting in kindergarten and 5 years old, we do full assessment batteries and we do therapy, the full therapy program. So the whole under 7 thing's a complete myth. Jay Lucker has written so many articles about demyth or myth busting the whole don't test under 7 BS. So don't get sucked into that. That is not correct. And I read completely through and annotated Terry Bellis's book because that's where everybody says it comes from. And if you get to the part, I found the part where she said it is if they're under 7, you have to interpret cautiously. And Jay Lucker will come back on that and say, you're going to want to interpret cautiously for every kid. And I will tell you, I have had a 5-year-old girl test the pants off of a 9-year-old boy in my booth so many times. So age is a number. It doesn't mean anything. If you can get them in there and you can put headphones on them and get them to get through some of these tests, if there are tests normed for under 7, it is legitimate to test under 7.
And honestly, the amount of therapy you have to do when a child is like 5 to 7, I'm not saying it's easier, but the amount of intervention you have to do at 5 to 7 is so much more basic than what you have to do older than that. Because and then they start feeling badly about themselves. It's affecting lots of different things. Like, why not set them up for success?
They've wired different areas of their brains the wrong way because they've developed these foundational skills the wrong way. So I explain that to parents too. You don't want to have to go and deconstruct areas of the brain and reconstruct them for language and reading and cognition and attention and executive function. The worst thing is to get a 15-year-old who's been having these problems for 12 years.
Absolutely. I mean, I would say that auditory processing was hard for me when I was a kid. And like, I didn't get any therapy or any auditory training. And then I met Jack and I was like, holy crap, this stuff is amazing. Sat in with him for therapy for a year. And then all of a sudden I was like, wait, I can read without having a headache. Like, I can listen to an entire lecture and remember what they said. Like, I don't know, when I started feeling it changing in myself, not even realizing it was a problem before, I was like, holy crap, there's something to this. I want to talk about the test questions really quickly because I feel real mean. Can we just give everyone who is here like A+? Is that possible?
Yeah, just send me the test questions and we post them. But if you want to go over the answers, so it's easy for them to.
Okay. How would a clinician know to pause during the SSW? You do an X and you circle it. That lets you know that somebody paused. Why is it important to note qualifiers? So the one reason, and you're supposed to circle the one that doesn't apply. We're not trying to spot fakers. Okay, so that's the one. Like, we are not trying to spot fakers. This is not about, we believe the client. Like, I literally make the decision to believe every client who comes in the door and tells me they're struggling. So the signal to noise ratio on the SSW for the W22 speech and noise is a 5 + 5 dB SNR. So the signal to noise ratio is +5. What are the 3 assessments utilized in Buffalo Model Test Battery? That's W22, speech and quiet, speech and noise, SSW, and phonemic synthesis. A quantitative error is something that's just wrong, okay? Black or white, wrong or correct or incorrect. A qualitative error is something to describe the way a person responds. So did they rehearse it before they said it back? Did they have a pause? Did they say it back before the stimulus stopped presenting? That's what a qualitative error is. What therapy do we use for decoding? We do both phonemic training and phonemic synthesis. What criteria is utilized? I hate this question now. So ASHA and AAA were basically saying a person has to fall outside 2 SDs, 2 standard deviations on 2 probes, and more than 3 standard deviations, or more than 3 standard deviations on a single probe. But National Acoustic Laboratories is like, I think that might be arbitrary, and we're agreeing. What test battery should be utilized upon APD reevaluation? I don't care what kind of testing you use, but use that as your pre and your post-test measure, okay? So use the same tests you did at the beginning. Can auditory processing abilities be evaluated before a child is 7 years of age? What do you reckon? Abso-freaking-lutely. We must. We should and we must. And it's worthwhile. Please feel free to also message me things that you felt were really helpful during this talk. I threw a lot at you today. Some of it was super dramatic, and I'm sorry about that. And also let me know if things were not explained very clearly, because I do want to make this, yeah, I want to help people see things that I get to see all the time.
Thank you so much, Angela. You were phenomenal.
Thank you so much. That was great.
Thank you.
Really
That
enjoyed
was
that.
the most interesting APD talk I've ever watched.
100%.
Angela, if you can send information about your masterclass, there's some requests for that. Send it to me and I'll get it posted.
Sweet. I've just posted the link in the chat just in case you want to just check that out.
Yeah, send it to me too, though, just so I can just email it to me.
Sweet. I can do that. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciated getting to know all of you and seeing all of you today. And thanks for doing it over Zoom so I didn't have to fly to Georgia, but it's all good.
You have a place to stay if you ever do come.
Oh, thank you. I love it.
All right. Thanks.
All right.
Everybody. Good
Take
night.
care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.